Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News, South Florida Conservative News Service, Monday, January 12th, 10:30 a.m. And this is the second in our series. If you've already seen our video on the NGOs, this is a follow-up, and we are talking about, is it time to end Citizens United, and why the conservatives, especially if there are any left, should rethink this old battle. And at the time it was framed, which was 2010, was the Supreme Court's Citizens United decision, 2010. The time it was framed as a victory for free speech, but something changed over the last 15 years. First of all, the battlefield isn't the same, the players aren't the same, and the money definitely isn't the same anymore. What used to look like a libertarian defense of speech now looks a lot more like a subsidy for an unelected NGO slash philanthropic slash academic slash foreign money, blah, 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 managerial class that doesn't answer to voters, doesn't run for office, and in too many cases, doesn't even share our national interests. And you know that to be the case. So today we're asking a serious question. Should the conservatives, what's left of them, lead the repeal of Citizens United? So let's define the terrain. Citizens United versus the FEC held that the government cannot limit independent political expenditures by corporations, unions, and other associations because spending money on political messaging is considered a form of protected political speech under the First Amendment. It was a very narrow argument, which is why they were able to slip it in. Somebody should go back and revisit that, but that's neither here nor there. That shows you the difference between a smart constitutional lawyer and a dumb one. The majority assumed a world of private. This is the idea. Doesn't not knowing or not caring what it was. Their assumption was a world of private speakers, private money, and private associations all competing in the marketplace of ideas. But this is 2010 we're talking about. The political economy still looked like the 1980s at that point. Corporations spent money, unions spent money, and that was pretty much the extent of the debate. Nobody was talking about billion-dollar philanthropic endowments, the foreign funded NGOs, the DEI industrial networks, the refugee and migration NGOs, the tax exempt union activism, all these things. The court was looking at an old map and didn't notice the landscape was already shifting. And this, as we know, is a problem, which is why we're talking about addressing it now. Since Citizens United, we've witnessed the rise of what can only be described as a shadow political class. And that is all these organizations, foundations, NGOs, the labor unions, especially the teachers union in the United States, advocacy nonprofits, activist universities, think tanks, soft power, PACs, all these things. These actors now shape elections before the voters even show up at the polls. The cost of holding a national election as a candidate are ridiculous, tens of millions of dollars usually, if not more. Senate race is supposed to be staggering. I wouldn't even guess what it is. But that's so they can put their information out there. So these other organizations, they're now the ones that are putting the information out for the ones that they like. They run ballot harvesting operations. They run voter registration drives. They have turnout models, demographic targeting. They have the legal war rooms. They are fighting the fight, candidate or no candidate, to get their whatever their thing is across. So that is not the speech of individual citizens. This is institutional power working upstream of elections. Okay, that's what it really is. They gerrymandered this thing around, or whatever you want to say, based on the idea that corporations were people, so people should have a say. It was bullshit, but it was argued in the right way. Um, the key detail, the part nobody in 2010 accounted for, is that a lot of this spending is tax advantaged or tax exempt or publicly subsidized or foreign influenced. So we are paying the people to tear down the United States. The American taxpayer is responsible for their own death, and it is twisted, It is absurd, but that is what you see in the news today has been accomplished over at least the last 10 years, if not longer. So if political spending is speech, why are the taxpayers subsidizing that speech, right? Get back to the free speech issue. That's something to be talked about. Here's what the conservatives, if they're out there, I have to go with them because most of the Republicans are bullshit and the Democrats are socialists. So this is what you have. Here's where they need to update their priors. This isn't about leveling any playing field or economic fairness. That's for the progressives. That's for your girlfriend Mazzy and Rand Paul to talk about. This is about sovereignty, accountability, and Republican self-government, the core of conservative political philosophy. You have to say to yourself, do we want foreign linked NGOs shaping US elections? Do we want tax exempt foundations outranking and outspending the voters? It should be one man, one vote, or woman, one vote. There's no way you in your own personal life could come up with the amounts of money that some of these organizations are putting out. Do we want universities acting as unaccountable political machines? These are some of the things that are doing it. Do you want a managerial class running the country without ever appearing on a ballot? And that is not free speech. That is not Madisonian republicanism, if you want to go that deep. And none of that is comparable or compatible with national sovereignty. 15 years after Citizens United, we do not, with a big N, we don't have a free marketplace of ideas. We have a public subsidized influence market. We have a propaganda machine that goes to the highest dollar or negotiates to where it finds that it will be best supported by whoever it is that they need to have win the office. Where ordinary citizens are capped, disclosed, and surveilled. Have you ever donated to a politician that says you can only donate $500 or whatever that number is, and you have to tell them what you do for a living and all that stuff? None of these organizations have to do that. So how is it equal? How are we all a person together? How are we all having equal freedom of speech? We do not, right? We do not have that. If you think that you are the same as Act Blue, or you are the same as CARE, or you're the same as APAC, or you're the same as any of these organizations that have filthy money, tons of it, meaning, and are doing what they want to do. We also see, as we said, foreign influence, the Qataris, the Russians, everybody and their grandmother, right? It's fundamentally anti-democratic that the most powerful political actors in America today are the only ones who never have to ask voters for permission. And that's what we have. Now, add the scandal nobody wants to talk about, which is fraudulently obtained public money being laundered into political influence through nonprofits. Milwaukee, the whole state of, I think Michigan's on the hook too. Most states where you see Democratic strongholds are on the hook for it. Not saying the Republicans don't have it somewhat, but the Democrats locked these states down so tight, there was no opposition. If there's an opposition, it is just titular, as we say. They aren't for real. They're the team playing the Harlem Globetrotters. Okay. So, COVID relief, welfare programs, migrant housing contracts, social service grants, billions of dollars are supposed to go to public welfare, have been siphoned off into networks that also run governmental operations as far as getting them elected, ballot harvesting, the demographic research. How do you think an idiot like Tim Walz, old tampon Tim, how does he keep getting into office, right? He's a moron. And any number of the other ones are the same way. We have the same issue in city of Philadelphia. Unbelievable, with the people that are in there. The DA should be tried for war crimes. He's a total racist. But since he makes it sound like he likes black people, although his record of allowing people that have murdered blacks out into the street is higher than the Klan's, right? If an NGO siphons $30 million in padded contracts and runs a civic engagement initiative, it gets awards from a philanthropic association. So there is a definite two-tier system that Citizens United allowed to normalize. So, what should be done? And this is anybody, but once again, it's conservative, theoretic conservative news center. We try to get theoretical conservatives to theoretically do something. You have to overturn Citizens United. All right. It doesn't require you to become a progressive. You don't have to paint your hair blue or any of that stuff. It requires returning to three principles: sovereignty, which is the foreign influence and foreign money should not shape U.S. elections through philanthropic fronts or NGOs. Number two, neutrality of the taxpayer. No more subsidizing political influence through tax exempt status or public grants. No more 501c3s for these guys. No more getting a tax credit for putting money into their organization. That shit has to cease. And then Republican self government. The citizens, not elected institutions, should govern the country. If the right wants to take elections seriously, which had better get their shit together, is, and trust me, I don't care what we know the socialists control the left. The Republican Party is so fractured and so busy looking out for number one that they are in a constant war with the Trump administration, who is actually doing things that benefit these assholes. If they would stop taking kickbacks, they could go back to their own state and say, I'm going to offer 50,000, 60,000, 100,000 jobs. They'd be elected forever. But they're afraid because they know they don't have the balls to live up and walk the walk, right? And it's easy. So you got to give the left credit for something. Psychopathically throw themselves into the void, right? This isn't even a leap of faith. Citizens, not elected institutions, need to govern this country. If the right, and I'm saying it again so it sticks in my mind, if the right wants to take elections seriously, if populists want representation, if nationalists want sovereignty, and if constitutionalists want what would be considered a Madisonian order back, then revisiting and working to repeal Citizens United is not optional. It is necessary. The political fight of the 2020s isn't left versus right the way it used to be. It's citizens versus institutions. It's voters versus the NGOs, the tax-free, here's your thing for your taxes, baby, thanks a lot. It's the Republicans versus, meaning the Republic, I'm sorry, I'll say it that way. The Republic, the United States versus managerialism. And if conservatives don't adjust to that reality, they will lose the country while still insisting they won the Supreme Court case in 2010. So it's time to rethink that. And any questions, comments, like, dislike, follow, unfollow, whatever's going on, do all those things. And we will have more in our series than the rest of the week. As always, have a good day and talk to you later.